20 years at Good Morning America. But something was wrong from the first answer. Not the words, a condescension that treated her questions as annoyances rather than opportunities. Robin adjusted. Different approach. The adjustment didn't work. Then Robin asked about his brother. Just a simple question about William. What Harry said made Robin pause. And then Robin Roberts did something she had never done in over 20 years of broadcast journalism. Something that revealed more about her subject than any answer ever could. She ended the interview herself. This is the interview that revealed everything. Subscribe now, hit that notification bell, and let's see what happened. The interview location had been carefully chosen. A neutral Manhattan living room style to feel like someone's home without belonging to anyone. ABC's special format for intimate conversations required this kind of setting. Robin Roberts had conducted hundreds of these deep-dive interviews over her legendary career. Presidents, celebrities, survivors of unimaginable circumstances. Harry arrived with substantial security, unusual for an intimate interview. But then again, everything about this booking was unusual. He walked into the space with controlled composure, shook Robin's hand firmly, settled into the interview chair with practiced precision. Prince Harry, thank you for sitting down with me. Robin, I've watched you for years. Your resilience is inspiring. Resilience is what happens when you have no other choice. Let's have an honest conversation today. The recording began. I want to start with something fundamental, Robin said, her voice carrying the warmth that had defined her career. Family, it's everything to me. I lost my mother, my sister Sally, and has been my rock. What does family mean to you right now? Harry's expression settled into something guarded. My wife and children are my family. And your birth family, your father, your brother, the family you grew up with. Those relationships are complicated. Complicated how? Because from outside, it looks like you've cut ties completely. Your cousin's wedding, you weren't there. Your father's attempts to reach out reportedly declined. What's actually happening? The institution creates barriers. Your brother isn't an institution. William is a person. Your father isn't an institution. Charles is your dad. When you use institutional language for family relationships, it creates distance that doesn't need to exist. Harry shifted in his chair. The dynamics are more complex than outsiders understand. Then help me understand. I lost my mother. I'd give anything for more time with her. You have a father who's reportedly trying to reconnect. What's preventing you from picking up the phone? The phone works both ways, Harry said, an edge entering his voice. Does it? Reports suggest he's tried. Reports suggest you've declined. Reports suggest you've made reconciliation conditional on specific apologies that haven't come. Is any of that accurate? I won't negotiate through media. You've negotiated through media extensively. The Oprah interview, the Netflix documentary, the book. Those were all negotiations in public. What's different now? Harry stood up slightly, then sat back down. Those were my story. Your story included your father, your brother, their private moments, their private words. You've shared their stories without their consent. Now you're claiming privacy for the relationship itself. I had the right to tell my truth, and they have the right to respond to being exposed. What you're calling complicated is actually consequence. You published private family conversations. They became more distant. Cause and effect aren't mysterious here. Robin's voice remained warm, but carried something sharper underneath. William Robin said your brother. Reports say you haven't spoken since the Queen's funeral. Over 3 years of silence between brothers who once were inseparable. What happened? Harry's jaw tightened visibly. He made choices. What choices specifically? Help me understand what could break a brotherhood that seemed so strong. I won't detail private matters. You detailed them in your book. You described his hairline. You described his temper. You described physical altercations. The privacy you're claiming now didn't exist when publishing served your narrative. That was context for my journey. That was exposure of his private moments for profit. You earned millions describing your brother in unflattering terms. Now you won't explain why the relationship can't be repaired. Harry's face had gone red. He needs to take responsibility for what? You've published hundreds of pages about your grievances. What specifically does William need to do? Silence stretched painfully. The silence tells me something. When the grievance is clear, but the solution isn't, sometimes the grievance is the solution. Sometimes the conflict is more valuable than the resolution. The divorce rumors, Robin said, shifting terrain. They've been everywhere lately. Financial strain, separate schedules, disagreements about returning to England. Your team issued denials. What's actually happening in your marriage? Tabloid speculation. Multiple outlets, specific details, reports that you want to reconnect with your family, reports that your wife doesn't, reports that these differences are causing real strain. Are those reports false? Every marriage faces challenges. Not every marriage faces these specific challenges. Being torn between two continents, between two families, between past and present. That's unusual strain. How are you managing it? Harry grabbed his water. We manage privately. You've managed publicly for years. Netflix cameras in your home, magazine interviews about your relationship. The privacy you're claiming contradicts your track record. Circumstances change, do they? Or does strategic need change? When things were going well, sharing was beneficial. Now that questions are harder, suddenly privacy matters. Let me share something with you, Robin said, her voice dropping to something more personal. I've been through things. Cancer twice, a bone marrow transplant that nearly killed me. I've faced actual uncertainty about whether I'd survive. She paused, letting the weight settle. What I learned from those experiences is that family is everything. That reconciliation matters more than pride. That time is limited and shouldn't be wasted on conflict that could be resolved. She looked at Harry directly. You have your father, your brother, your entire British family. All of them living. All of them reachable. And you're spending your time on grievance instead of repair. As someone who knows what it's like to almost lose everything, I don't understand that choice. Harry leaned back defensively. You don't understand the dynamics. I understand mortality. I understand regret. I understand what people say when they're dying. And it's never, I wish I'd stayed angry longer. It's always, I wish I'd reconciled sooner. You have the chance I'd give anything for. Why aren't you taking it? The Peter Phillips wedding. Robin continued. Your cousin, you weren't invited. Reports say the family specifically excluded you to avoid, what was the phrase? A PR circus. How did that feel? Harry's expression darkened. Scheduling conflicts. Scheduling conflicts for a family wedding. You're unemployed in the traditional sense. Your schedule is what you make it. What scheduling conflict could possibly prevent attending your cousin's wedding? Personal commitments. Personal commitments that coincidentally align with reports you weren't wanted there. Reports the family feared your presence would overshadow the bride. Reports you've become more liability than family member at their events. Those characterizations are unfair. Are they? Look at your recent family appearances. Everyone becomes a story. Everyone generates headlines. Everyone shifts attention from the event to you. At some point, families protect their celebrations from people who've become disruptions. Harry stood up. I won't discuss private family decisions. You'll write books about them. You'll do documentaries about them, but you won't discuss them with me. The selectivity is remarkable. Your children, Robin said, not backing down. Archie and Lilith. They have a grandfather who's King of England. They have cousins they've never properly known. They have an entire heritage being kept from them. We protect them. From what specifically? From grandparents who reportedly want to know them. From a father-in-law who's tried to connect. From cousins their own age who could be friends. From the institution that damaged me. The institution. There's that word again. But children don't experience institutions. They experience people. Grandpa, uncle, cousins. You're keeping them from people, not abstractions. How do you justify that? My judgment is their father. Your judgment shaped by your wounds. Children don't inherit their parents' conflicts unless their parents impose them. What happens when they're adults and realize what you kept from them? I'm protecting their well-being. Are you or are you using them in your conflict? Because keeping children from loving family members isn't protection. It's weaponization. Harry moved toward the door. This interview is over. Robin stood too. No, this interview isn't over because you're ending it. This interview is over because I'm ending it. Harry stopped, genuinely surprised. What? In over 20 years, I've never stopped an interview prematurely. I've sat with people in crisis, people in denial, people who couldn't face their own truth. I've always found a way through. She paused. What I'm experiencing now is different. Every question about your family gets deflected to institutions. Every question about your brother gets turned to his failures. Every question about your children gets framed as protection. You came here claiming to want honest conversation. You've provided none. Harry remained standing. You're being unfair. I'm being a journalist. The same journalist who's interviewed presidents, survivors, people facing real adversity. Most of them eventually engage genuinely. You won't or can't. And I don't have time for performance. I've survived cancer twice, Robin said, her voice carrying a weight Harry couldn't dismiss. I've had a bone marrow transplant. I've faced death and chosen life every single time. What I've learned from those experiences is that time is precious. That family is irreplaceable. That pride is poison. She looked at him with something that might have been pity. You have everything I fought to survive for. Health, family, children, opportunity, and you're spending it on conflict, on grievance, on maintaining wounds that could heal if you'd let them. You don't understand. I understand mortality. I understand what matters when everything else falls away. I understand what people regret when they're running out of time. You're building regret with every day you spend in conflict. She sat back down. But you're not ready to hear that, and I'm not willing to pretend this conversation is going anywhere useful. Robin turned to face the camera. I want to explain what just happened because it matters. She took a breath. I've been a journalist for over 30 years. I've sat with presidents and survivors and ordinary people facing extraordinary circumstances. Most of them, even the most guarded, eventually find their way to something genuine. She paused. What I experienced today was different. Every question about family became institutional blame. Every question about his brother became the brother's fault. Every question about his children became protective rationalization. There was no self-reflection, no acknowledgement of his own role, no genuine engagement with difficult truths. She straightened. I faced real adversity. I fought for my life literally. I know what courage looks like. I know what healing requires. It requires honesty, humility, willingness to examine your own contribution to your circumstances. I saw none of that today. I want to say something to the audience, Robin continued, because this matters beyond one interview. She looked directly at the camera. Family is complicated. Relationships are difficult. Wounds are real. I'm not dismissing anyone's pain, including his. But pain doesn't excuse permanent conflict. Wounds don't justify isolation of children from grandparents. Grievance doesn't replace reconciliation. She paused. What I saw today was someone who's made conflict his identity, who's built a career around grievance, who can't move forward because moving forward would require examining his own choices rather than just blaming others. She took a breath. I hope he finds his way. I hope he calls his father. I hope he reconciles with his brother. I hope he lets his children know their family. But hope doesn't require my participation in his narrative, and I choose not to participate anymore. She straightened her jacket. This interview is over. Not because he walked out, because I decided enough was enough. The footage aired that evening. ABC made no edits. The clips that spread captured the unprecedented moment. You published private family conversations. They became more distant. Cause and effect aren't mysterious. Sometimes the conflict is more valuable than the resolution. As someone who knows what it's like to almost lose everything, I don't understand that choice. Keeping children from loving family members isn't protection. It's weaponization. You're building regret with every day you spend in conflict. I'm not willing to pretend this conversation is going anywhere useful. Harry's team released a statement calling the interview a predetermined attack by someone whose personal experiences have been weaponized against a mental health advocate. Robin addressed it the following morning on GMA. Predetermined? I asked about his family, his brother, his children's relationship with their grandparents. Those aren't attacks. Those are questions any journalist would ask. My personal experiences taught me what matters. What I saw was someone choosing conflict over connection. That observation isn't attack. It's truth. She added, I've survived cancer twice. I know what fighting for life looks like. I know what really matters when everything else falls away. Family matters. Connection matters. Time matters. He has all three and is wasting them on grievance. That's not my failure to understand. That's his failure to appreciate what he still has. For Robin Roberts, the interview became an unexpected demonstration of the clarity that facing mortality brings. Proof that over 20 years of journalism had given her the authority to recognize when engagement was absent and refuse to participate in performance. For Prince Harry, it was devastating. He hadn't walked out. He'd been stopped. Robin Roberts, one of America's most beloved journalists, a two-time cancer survivor, had determined that continuing was pointless. Being deemed not worth interviewing by someone who'd interviewed everyone exposed something no media strategy could address. But for the millions who watched, something else emerged. The contrast between Robin, cancer survivor, fighter, someone who knew what really mattered, and Harry's complete inability to engage with any of her questions told its own story. Robin had asked about his brother. Harry blamed the brother. Robin had asked about his children. Harry called it protection. Robin had asked for anything genuine. Harry provided performance. And when Robin shared what facing death had taught her, that family is irreplaceable, that time is precious, that pride